Hi, everybody. My name is Robert Mulhall. I'm the CEO of Kripalu Center for Yoga and Health. I am delighted to be talking to you today. Really, I want to share a little bit of a message about how Kripalu is moving through these times and how we will continue to move through these times in the future. One of the big conversations that we've had as an organization in the last few years was as we were reopening the center post-COVID, we were trying to figure out how do we hold the protocol around COVID safety and accessibility. And as you can imagine, really what was the debate that was happening at Kripalu was similar to the debate that was happening everywhere in the world. There was very different views on what was necessary, what was important. And obviously, as information was changing all of the time, we were learning new things and trying to make decisions. And it felt like we were having this conversation that didn't really have the highest orienting principle identified yet for us. And we were trying to think about what was the right or the wrong thing to do. But it was becoming very sort of focused on the specifics of the protocols. And I sat in meditation a lot during that time to ask for guidance about what was the right thing for the organization to do. And what kept coming through was this message of the United States is a country now where there are very few places where people can gather and hold really different perspectives, but still be together in community. And the message really that felt like it came from the land here in the Berkshires was make sure that whatever you do, that Kripalu is still a place where people of difference can gather. And so we held that then as our higher principle as we made our decisions. And it became quite obvious then what the right response was for our organization. If we wanted to maintain this place, this center, this community as a place where people of difference could gather, we would hold that in a particular way. And so we did that, and I'm sure not everybody was happy about what we did, but we held this vision of not becoming a community polarized by the conversation of vaccines or non-vaccines. We held this vision of a community that could hold difference and hold unity at the same time. And so we rolled out our protocols and with the goal of ensuring safety and accessibility for folks. And of course, had its hiccups and bumps on the road, but we feel like we were able to hold that higher principle. And as time has gone on, it feels like almost now, whatever we talk about, it's a polarizing issue. There are very extreme views on absolutely everything these days. And it feels like we've really just lost this desire, maybe capacity, maybe the resourcing, the internal resourcing to stay in dialogue with each other, to stay in a place of curiosity, stay in a place of compassion. And obviously there are many conflicts happening in the world right now. What's happening in Israel and Gaza, what's happening in Ukraine and Russia, what's been happening in Yemen for a long time, what's been happening in Syria for a long time, what's happening in Sudan, the Congo, all over the world. And then domestically, the depolarization that's happening in the United States of America around its politics, which feels like it'll only increase in this year of 2024 as we move towards November. And that's creating, all of this is creating deep stress, deep tension in individuals' bodies and our beings, and in our communities, in our families. And I grew up in Ireland, in the Republic of Ireland, and I had the unbelievable honor of knowing a man who brought deep transformation to the island of Ireland through his actions. His name is Brendan Duddy, and he was a very simple fish and chip shop owner in the city of Derry. And he was approached by effectively the head of the IRA and the head of the British spy agency in the north of Ireland. If he was approached and he was asked if he would start to become a go-between between those two adversaries, would he become a messenger and pass communication back and forth? And so he very humbly agreed to do this, thinking that he was not the right man for the job, but they all said that he was. And so he started this process, and what very quickly emerged was that there was a need for dialogue, even as these two groups were, and many other groups involved, were very, very actively trying to cause harm and kill each other at times. And so what he started to do was on Friday nights, he would unlock the back door of his family home, and he would ask his family to go out for dinner to one of the local restaurants, and he would unlock the door and he would wait. He would wait to see if anybody would arrive. Anybody was willing to come and sit in his home and talk. And what started to happen was that representatives from these groups, two individuals, would come and they would meet and sit on his little two-seater sofa, a little tiny, humble couch that he had. And he would sit and he would wait. And then eventually one of them would say, well, I want a cup of tea, so I'm going to go put the kettle on. And then the other guy would say, well, if you're getting the tea, can you get the chocolate biscuits? And so let's say the British spy was in making the tea and getting the biscuits. And then he said, well, if I'm making the tea and the biscuits, you've got to get the wood for the fire. And what started to happen was, as they came together, they started to connect as human beings again, not as ideologies, not as alternative opinions to each other or facts or visions of what needed to happen in the island of Ireland. They just started to connect as human beings. And in that connection, they were able to broaden their understanding of each other and each other's visions for the future. And through that broadening of understanding, through that compassion and through that connection, they were able to start to enter into a real dialogue. And they did this for years and years and years. Actually, they did it for 25 years, including a 10-year period where nobody came. He would unlock his door and nobody came. It was at the height of what was known as the Troubles in Ireland, a time when people felt like they just couldn't talk. But he would open his door in the hope that one day they would come. And then one day in the early 90s, they came again, almost spontaneously. Relatively quickly after that, there were peace deals signed, which culminated in what is known as the Good Friday Agreement in 1998. I tell you that story because I'm a proud Irishman. I tell you that story because no matter how hard things are in our world, there is the possibility of a more beautiful world. Because we human beings, if we decide to come together, if we decide to listen to each other, if we decide to suspend our idea that we are right and that other person is completely wrong, if we decide to hold a compassionate, loving view of the person in front of us, even if we disagree with everything they say, then there is a possibility for a new future together. And so with this story and deep in my heart, and with this experience of how Kripalu has moved through the early stages of reopening and the COVID protocols that we implemented, we're holding on to this vision of being an organization where folks of difference can gather in community. And instead of holding difference and saying, well, now I don't want to be near you, we're saying hold difference and come together. And so I want to read you something that really speaks to some of how we think and see our role is now and going into the future. We are living obviously in very polarized times. It's driven by disconnection. And our culture and our way of living is encouraging us to be disconnected from each other, from ourselves, from this earth, and all that's beyond ourselves. And this disconnection we can see is leading to greater division and separation, which is ultimately leading to polarization. And part of the medicine for disconnection and division is obviously more connection and togetherness. And part of the medicine for polarization is being willing to step into the in-between space. Often the question in times like these of deep struggle and deep uncertainty and chaos in our world is, well, what can we do? What should we do? And Kripalu has been in a process of deep listening and ceremony, asking the land, asking spirit, asking for guidance on how best can we serve in these times. Specifically, how can we support deeper unity? The answer to what Kripalu's role is during these times, it hasn't come about just from thinking about things, kind of rushing or trying to force an answer. We've really tried to slow down. We've really tried to practice what we teach. We've tried to soften. We've tried to let go of our own personal opinions and really tried to empty ourselves so that we could listen deeply. There's always this intense pressure to speak and to pick a side. Kripalu's medicine has never been about picking sides. It's about being a consistent presence of love, where we hold our whole community in a togetherness. It's why so many people come to our campus or connect with us virtually and have that sense of coming home. So now, maybe more than ever, we see this powerful need for centers like Kripalu, where people can gather and be in community with others who hold truly diverse experiences and perspectives from their own, so that we can be together and learn from each other. So we are committed to being a sanctuary of spirit that holds this in-between space. It's not a neutral middle space. It's a place of not knowing. It's a place of not thinking that we're right. It's a void, but that void is pregnant with all possibilities that are way beyond our current consciousness. It's certainly not a passive space. It's vibrantly alive. It's also where paradox lives. It's where the vast diversity of people's why can be. It's a place without sides. It is a place with a center. It's a place that focuses on togetherness, even in our differences. It can be a place of action. It can be a place of stillness. It's always a place of love. To be in that in-between space, it means that we as a community will need to cultivate and resource ourselves physically, mentally, emotionally, and spiritually through practice. When I study the work of Gandhi and the liberation movement in India, the work of the civil rights movement, particularly in the 50s and 60s in North America, they knew that they had to resource themselves very deeply, physically, mentally, emotionally, and spiritually. I was down and I spent last Thanksgiving taking myself on a tour of many of the places where big milestones happened in the civil rights movement. And I was struck by some of what I read about the march over the bridge in Selma, where before they marched, they gathered and they prepared themselves spiritually, as they said, because they knew that they weren't just going to walk with their feet, but they were going to walk and lift a country as they did this. So to hold this in-between space, it means that our practice must be rigorous and attended to. Because to hold a middle space, not a place of opinion, but a place of not knowing, a place of bringing people together. A lot of people won't love that. They will want us to be on their side, to align with their view of the world. So how we will do this? We will be curious. We will encourage connection. We will embrace paradox, and we will lean heavily into compassion. We will use our values as an organization to support us. And we will hold regular space for our staff to be in dialogue together as we continue our internal work of bringing more equity into our organization, as we host societal transformational programs for our community, so that our community can examine the collective challenges that we face and find hope and ways to engage and serve. As we balance this need for being and doing, we're going to continue our commitment to being an igniter of transformation. Every year we serve 50,000 people. Over the last few years, we've been leaning heavily into creating more accessibility for folks. And we've been able to move our scholarship programs from less than 1% of people to now over 10% of people coming and engaging with Kripalu in person and online are receiving free programming or scholarships. For the last number of years, we've had a program which is Rest for Changemakers, where they can come for 5 days, fully sponsored, and rest and rejuvenate so that they can go back into the world and continue their service. We've been working with artists for the last 2 years now, again, helping them rest, rejuvenate, find community, spiritual practice, and create sacred art that heals and transforms the world. We've been supporting leaders since 2021 to come on our leadership development programs, to unlearn much of what is taught about leadership, and to walk away with a new paradigm of leadership that centers love, wholeness, and unity. And we continue to do our work for first responders, educators, healthcare workers, etc., through our Rise for Resiliency program that is now nearly 20 years old. In addition to this, we will be teaching on our R&R programs the art of dialogue, helping folks relearn how to be in difficult conversations and stay in a place of listening, stay in a place of respect, stay in a place of suspending all of our judgments and ideas about the person in front of us, and then speak our truth compassionately for the good of all. We are also going to host groups who are actively working to bring about and build the capacity for peace and dialogue in our world, domestically and internationally. So we will open up our doors and our center for those organizations so that they can create more trainers and more facilitators in the world. And then we will welcome groups who have conflict currently to Kripalu to come and to absorb the energy and vibration of this land, to be a part of our programming, and then to have the space to be in dialogue with each other so that they can find peace, they can do their repair work, and they can heal and create new paths for the future together. In these times, it's imperative that we all uphold our commitment to Kripalu being a sacred retreat center where those of different ideas, opinions, and perspectives can gather and find commonality, a shared humanity, and a deeper understanding through the practice of togetherness. We understand and honor the diversity of perspectives within our community, and we can create an environment of love, presence, and integrity. You, me, we all have a vital role to play in helping us ensure that all members of our community feel respected and valued. Thank you for your understanding and supporting us all in this Dharma, this sacred work of this organization. Many organizations are called to move the world in different ways. Some find themselves doing deep advocacy work. Some find themselves being organizations that create wealth to donate to good causes. Some find themselves more at the tip of the arrow with regards to protest and activist work. What is clear for us is that our work is to be a sanctuary of unity and restoration for all those who seek solace and connection at Kripalu. May our work together inspire more people to hold this vision of love and unity. Thank you for walking this path of love together with us all.